so far off. So we really would appreciate if that could be more of you know, of a focus, you know, during conversation. Like, okay, you guys have your songs done. If more energy is put on in stressing on copyright and helping them understand that, compared to the overly saturated of CSAC, VMI, and ASCAP, which they are not even prepared for it, I think it would make a lot of a difference in the creative space, because a lot of them, they just are going by what they hear people say, but they don't necessarily understand what it all means.
So look at two elements, and I'll say this just because you got to keep hearing the word copyright. And copyright's different than your BMI and your ASCAP, which is a publishing company.
Can you put it on the board, attorney?
Okay.
You have this thing that you do.
Oh, yeah. I'll get that. Yeah. Okay, I'll start having some fun with you. I'll act like I'm teaching one of my classes. But I'll share this with you. Copyright's not new. And I know we talk about the Copyright Act of 1976. The copyrights were actually created over in England in 1709. That's the history of copyright. It's called the Statute of Anne. And that's what it was, Anne. Statute of Anne, like Anne the lady. Well, copyright came into the United States in 1790. So this is not something new. They were protecting assets back in the 1700s because they had value. So it's no different than them, you know, having a constitution for your rights. You know, you're protecting assets. You put it in a safety deposit box. They started realizing that these writers, these creators have value. And not everybody can read and write, you know, in all ethnicities. But you just got to look at the value of a copyright and why it became so valuable. And I represent this to you, and I'll try not to tell you a couple of stories. But I'll share this with you, that the one thing about the entertainment industry, and we're down here in Texas, you know, New York and LA, they're the largest cities in this country. They get it. They know what entertainment means. Entertainment, just for giggles, for anybody that has not checked, look at the U.S. Library of Commerce. They do a monthly report about the gross national product in the United States. So you don't have to take my word for it. Just look. Entertainment, since I've been checking, always in the top 10. It's been as high as number 2, but it's always in the top 10 as far as gross national product for this country. Yeah, I know some of the other entities got bailouts, you know, from Goldman Sachs and some of the automobile manufacturers, but the entertainment industry did not get one for the simple reason is that it's a very viable asset. And those two places know it, just like we know oil. You know, down here in Texas, there's not a person that you can find that doesn't. If we happen to run out of oil, we got another resource called cattle. That's why they call it the Texans. You know, and we've got the space industry. Guess what? They got a team called the Rockets. Astros come from that. So understand, we've got multiple resources here in Texas, but please be mindful that there's a lot that you can get as far as looking at the copyright, the intellectual property, because it's just like real estate. There's a statute of fraud rule that applies to intellectual property. If you're going to assign it, it should be by written instrument. You can do some non-exclusive rights to some third party, but there's an expectation of exclusivity. You've got to look at having that right, that actual real estate transferred by written instrument. And I got this from Dedra Davis, so I've got to give her chart some credit.
And I got it from somebody some years ago.
When you've got a copyright, you've got a writer. And then you got this publishing piece that's over here. That's the one that Ms. LaTrell was talking about when you start looking at the rights that can be transferred. Because when you get to your publishing, you've got 4 big rights to stick out. You got your public performance. You got your sync, your synchronization, you got your paper, which is going to be your print media, and you've got your mechanicals. So that's all going to cluster over here. When you're dealing with it, that's going to pretty much give you your 100%. There's not anything else out there that you've got everything else that'll come from a writer's right, and this is the only place in the world that you're going to end up where people kind of reference things by 200% instead of the world that's made up of 100%. But they divide it. And just because this is not going to write very well, at the 50% and the 50%, but it's really a writer's royalty publishing, and you can start looking at those rights that kind of, you know, flicker out of it. But again, I get excited about this stuff because it's a real business to us, and I hope that I'm really recruiting you guys to get into the entertainment industry because it really is a viable alternative. I'll turn it over to the MC.
Okay. Basically, you all talked about copyright. So, what agencies are you going through so you know that you don't have copyright infringements, and you and that you're putting your music through? Ms. Dedra Davis did talk about some of the performer rights organizations. What are those agencies, and can you explain to the crowd what those agencies do?
Okay. Yeah, with your mechanical royalties, which is one of the rights that you have with the Copyright Act, one of your 6. Harry Fox is a company that people commonly use, and that will accumulate or collect monies for you. And when you go on, you can go online as an individual, companies, everyone is able to go to hfa.com, to the Harry Fox website. And if you're interested in licensing a cover song, they have this thing, song file. And if you're interested in something else, they have eSync. I can't think. eSync is the other one, and that's what one of the rights that you get through the Copyright Act. Your mechanicals. That's a company that can help you collect. So you say, well, what are mechanicals? Well, one of the things that you're able to do with the Copyright Act is make copies. And in the old days, they used to mechanically those not CDs. I'm getting young. I'm only 23. The albums, they're pressing, mechanical. They're pressing them. So they say, okay, well, this is mechanical, and we still use the term mechanical royalty. So what you do is the record label is the one who in the old days, we're kind of going with what they're saying, is that's reproducing this work for you. And every time they make a copy, because your right to duplicate is in the Copyright Act, they have to have in writing, as Ms. Anderson said, that you give them permission to do that. And every time they do it, they owe you money. The record label owes you money. And now we're in digital world, so you're owed money. Well, Harry Fox will help you collect that money for that mechanical royalty. Now, you have other streams of income through your Copyright Act, because the Copyright Act is spectacular. So you have performance. Your performance money, ASCAP, CSEC, BMI. You do not have to become a member of ASCAP, CSEC, or BMI. You're welcome to collect the money yourself. But no one has time to go to every radio station, every TV station, doctor's office, nightclub. You'll get tired trying to run around and collect your money. So what we do is we decide, well, we'll take a hit. They have formulas. Each company has their own individual formula on how to pay you. I'll go ahead and take a hit and allow these people to collect my money, and I'll join one of the three. CSEC, you don't have a choice. They select you, but I'll go ahead and join one of the three. So those are two things with the Copyright Act. And you have these variety of streams of income. So if you are fortunate enough and you get a publishing deal, the publishers are there to exploit your work. Well, you can exploit your own work. But the reason you want to join forces with, and you're telling this to your client, right? The reason they want to join forces, if they can, if the company wants them, EMI, that was the one at that time, they want you, then they will help you exploit your work. So Tami was always fantastic, but this string of people that she was able to get on their work, Whitney's and all those, she would not have gotten on them short of dealing with this big company. And how do you even get that relationship? I tell people, and you tell this to your clients, I tell people it's better to have some of a pie than being stingy and trying to hold on to the whole pie. So you can collaborate with people, and a lot of it's out of friendships, relationships. You collaborate with people, and if they get something, maybe they can drag you along too, and now you both are part of this scenario. So there's so many ways to win, and as counsel, you're the one who's sharing with them, but there's a lot of streams of revenue. We talked about mechanical, way that you can collect. We talked about performing with the Copyright Act, and then we have sync and a majority of other ways, one in which is when somebody is wanting to do a derivative work, and that's dealing with samples. Copyright Act, derivative work. So you truly want to pay attention in your copyright classes because you want to know the streams of income, because that's how your clients get paid.
At the end of the day, my story didn't start off great, and a lot of our stories beginning in the music industry, when you're on the brink of success, there's usually a little bit of trial and error and just lack of education, and you just want to be a creator. You just want to be an artist. At that time, I just wanted to be an artist. I was only 17 years old. I had been in several girl groups. I was singing in school and been on like a small little tour with BET. I thought I was really just on, wasn't doing nothing. Really, but in my mind, I was
and she was.
But you know, I really did not understand like the value of publishing because we didn't have anybody writing our songs. I mean, unfortunately, Houston was not the hub like a Motown to where we just had songwriters just floating around. So literally most of the artists, if there are any artists in here, you're probably already writing your own material. And so I was in the same boat. But unfortunately, I had a situation with the small label that I was signed to when I was, I think I was fresh out of high school. And I decided to part ways with them, but they illegally sold one of my songs that they didn't have the rights to. They didn't know that I had already copywritten the records. So I was able to still have that money for myself because it was something that I did prior to them. Now, a lot of publishing companies don't do that because they feel like, hey, we want you because of this song, we're going to collect on that. But not only was I able to benefit off of that, instead of me, taking a whole bunch of money up front when they advanced me, I took a very small percentage, applied some of that to my education, and then I was able to take some of the money and use it for traveling expenses because I knew we were going to have conferences, we would have, annual events. You would, of course, need to meet all the record label executives. I was in Houston. All of that's going on in New York, in LA. Not happening in Houston. So I took that money and I utilized it for more than just one purpose. I wasn't out balling and, buying a whole bunch of big whips and stuff like that. I really was like, let me invest it back into my career because I was new to it. I didn't know, and I was really interested in learning about it. So it afforded me relationships that I literally have had since then, like that I probably will have for a lifetime with producers and songwriters. We're kind of like the superheroes of the music industry that the record companies come to because they need writers for their artists. And so then you feel like you're a part of this huge movement of being creators. And, L.A. Reid was in a conference with us one time, and he said, you are the bloodline of the industry. If we do not have a song, the attorneys have nothing to negotiate. The artists have nothing to sing. The record label has nothing to sell. The promotions and marketing company has nothing to market. The fans have nothing to fall in love with.
And there's no music because you write music.
Right. So with that being said, I was like, wow, had I not taken the money that I got from this publishing deal and, wasn't worried about getting a huge advance, but took a smaller portion to invest it back into traveling and getting to know and meet all these people, from there more placements came and more opportunities came. And it just evolved into just a career that I'm so grateful for. And I'm so grateful to be up here with you guys and being able to share my story. But as attorneys, as future attorneys, I'm hoping that you guys will be able to also fight, for your clients and really strengthen them in the areas of business too, because we would never be attorneys, but I do think that knowledge is power for your clients, because what it does for them, it gives them a sense of confidence that, I'm going to learn about this. I'm going to really, really, wrap my mind around this business that I want to be creative in, because it can help me live a successful life and be able to take care of my family. So it's just
for your life and 70 more years.
Yeah.
Lawyers, that's
Look at
important information.
That copyright piece, because we talk about the infringement, and that's a tough, dirty word, but infringement is very important because if you own that right, that's your property, and infringement, that's actually how you're paid for someone that exploits your property without your consent. And the big word always flies around about the $150,000 per infringement, but that's going to be for willful infringement. So understand, even like with Robin Thicke and some of this, blurred line litigation that was out there with Marvin Gaye's family, they got a pretty big number. But when you look at infringement, it used to be regular infringement was $500 per infringement. It's now $750. And if it's aggressive but not necessarily, willful, they'll pay. It used to be $20,000. It's up to $30,000 per infringement. So the federal guidelines give you a pretty good bite on somebody that's infringing. So once you give that notification, and if it's just willful, they just know that it's your property, and they're going to move forward with it. Like I've had in some litigation in my younger years, it's that up to, it used to be $100,000, now it's up to $150,000 per infringement. So each time. And when your record is being sold, the one thing about Ms. LaTrell was you heard it on the radio. I often ask my students, if your record's being sold and it's being sold very well, Do you, number one, run out and file an injunction at a TRO and stop them from selling it? Or do you, number two, allow them to sell as many as they can, sue them or threaten you to put them on notice and come back and get that infringement fee for it? And I'll let you make the decision. It's a, you know, it's a as you come and as you take it basis. But you do have defenses to protect your asset, no differently than someone foreclosing on a house for failure to pay. Well, you basically go in and present the copyright that you've registered. And the federal court, they really shine, you know, broadly upon a intellectual property owner to, you know, protect that right for them. Let's say it's been around a long time.